no matter what, or no matter how hard things are. And things get hard for everyone. I mean, people have bad days and good days, and bills to pay, and things to do, but I never take things for granted. I really feel like I'm incredibly blessed.
We're excited to have marketing expert, PR events expert,
Thank
Cindy
you.
Metzler with us this morning.
Thank you, Chris. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to hear about your story.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to share it. I love, actually, it's unusual because I'm usually sharing everyone else's story. So this is a little bit different for me.
So we'll be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So how you feel? Feel good?
I feel
There
really
you go.
good. Yeah,
All right.
thank you for having me.
So let's start way back. Love to hear about your childhood, where you grew up, where you're from.
Okay, I grew up in New York City in a little tiny place actually in the Bronx called City Island. It's a mile long and a half a mile wide, so a small population, one way on, one way off, a little bridge, and they call it the Nantucket of New York. It's a little tiny, like surrounded by water, so it's a very boating community, but also very city-like because it's in the Bronx. So, but very neat cultural experience, definitely a melting pot. We went to school trips to the Statue of Liberty and the Guggenheim Museum, so that was super cool growing up.
What was some of your hobbies or some of your favorite things to do growing up?
I actually loved going to museums growing up. Like when we took the trips, I would actually, we would take separate trips with our family and friends. And so I got very much into art and design and things like that. And I feel like marketing and PR, what I do now, is somewhat creative. And I've always had like a little flavor for art. And I took art classes and things in school too. So, yeah.
So about what time was it you got big into creative marketing design? That kind of, was it high school? Was it before high school, post?
Well, okay, so I went to public elementary school, actually on City Island where I grew up. So it was where there were only 28 children from kindergarten to 8th grade in my graduating class, and a lot of us are still friends because it was such a small, tight-knit group. And then from there, I went to, you had to take a bus, actually 4 buses to the city to high school, and then I ended up going to an all-girl Catholic high school, and that's when I think I started taking art classes and things of that nature, and got sort of into the creative aspect of work and life, and then from there I went to college at the Fashion Institute of Technology, and which was really cool. It was lots of famous designers and marketers and actually interior designers too went to, like Donna Karan, and so it was cool because we actually got access to a lot of those people. So
What made you want to go there? What was it that you decided this is where I'm going to go?
I think that I just had a passion for fashion at the time, and also I loved marketing, I loved writing, I loved art. So there was, kind of a lot of that going on there, and it was right in the heart of Manhattan. And growing up like 8 miles from the city, right into the heart of Manhattan, we traveled there a lot, and it's obviously one of the coolest places, I think. I mean, there's so many cool places in the world, but Manhattan is definitely one of them.
Absolutely. So what was next after college?
Okay, so actually, interestingly, my sister went to school for hotel and restaurant management, and I went to school for marketing and fashion design. And my sister, while I was in college, my parents owned a piece of commercial property where we grew up, and so she had just finished college and opened a restaurant there. And so while I was finishing college, I actually helped pay for part of my college through working at the restaurant. And I actually I tell my kids now, working at a restaurant, I think, is one of the most valuable things to do growing up, as a teenager, and then maybe even into your early 20s, because you learn about time management skills, you learn about juggling things, you learn about being a leader. Even if you're a waitress, you have to learn about how to handle stressful situations in the kitchen, outside, and
Customer service.
customer service. Absolutely, yeah. So that was, I think, a really great foundational thing for my life and my career. And then from there, I actually worked there while I was finishing college until after I finished college. And then my first actual real job out of college was with Neiman Marcus. So I was like an assistant buyer in the fashion jewelry department. And that also, I feel like for myself, Neiman Marcus, Stanley Marcus wrote a book called Minding the Store, which is still like a foundational book for customer service. And I feel like that helped me basically build the foundation for my customer service skills. So, and Neiman Marcus also, they have a program called, let me see if I can remember it, something like the Art of Customer Service. And it's a 2-week program, very intensive, and they really are one of the leaders, Nordstrom too, but they were really one of the leaders in the customer service experience and treating customers, obviously going above and beyond for them. And so from there, I was actually recruited by someone came in and recruited me from the Limited Corporation, and I worked for them for a few years. Also, for me, very foundational, I think, in my work ethic, but working really hard, working long hours. We had literally 30-hour inventory shifts sometimes, and as ended up being promoted to the store manager. I worked at a store in Lexington Avenue in Manhattan, and then also their Roosevelt Field store on Long Island, which were 2 of their top performing stores. And at one point we had over 200 employees, so it was, again, a lot of juggling. And you also had to manage time management, because if the sales were down, you had to cut staff, and of course, you had a matrix that you had to follow, and so you learned about profitability and things of that nature. And also, as a leader, you knew that, okay, well, someone has to stay if we don't have a lot of, money coming in to kind of make up those hours. So I feel like those 2 experiences definitely were very foundational for me. And then from there, I started getting into marketing and PR. I actually moved to Florida.
Let's pause there, and
Yeah.
you touched on some great things already: leadership, customer service. Those are some things. Work ethic we talked about earlier. If you would just expand on those 3 things first. Start with leadership. I think obviously it's so important.
Yeah, so I feel like when you realize that people are relying on you to make decisions, and like, for example, in New York, it snows in the wintertime. I had an hour commute to get to some of the stores that I managed. And if I didn't get to the store, I mean, lots of times the mall is, like, you don't really think about that if you're not in the business, but the mall is open a lot during snowstorms, unless it's really bad. But, the manager has to open the store, otherwise the employees can't get there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually remember, because I was in my early 20s, and I remember my mom would say, "That's crazy. Don't drive in the snow. It's dangerous," and this and that. But, you learn, I think, that when people are counting on you, like, if I don't show up, then what message is that going to send to the staff? And it's, like I said, it's, at one point we had over 200 during the holidays at the Roosevelt Field store, where these people are counting on you and they're looking to you for leadership. So
That's definitely leading by example. So the next thing, customer service. Talk about the importance of customer service.
well, I think 2 of those experiences, I learned a lot about how to really value customers, and without customers, you really don't have business. So, and I know the mindset now, which I actually agree that the mindset of treating your staff really well, obviously that translates to good customer service. But, without the customer, you really don't have a business. So I know the importance of, going above and beyond, and your customers recognize that. I mean, even in my business now, as a marketer, you build a reputation on providing a certain level of customer service, and people have expectations, and hopefully you try to exceed those. So.
Awesome. Work ethic. Work ethic's, it's different now. We talked about that. What can you say about work ethic? Where you got it? What your thoughts on it?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I actually have an article that I wrote on LinkedIn about a little bit about work ethic, just growing up. My dad worked for the New York City Parks Department and always had a side hustle when I was growing up. My mom and dad raised 4 kids, and again, we grew up in New York City. It was a nice area. We weren't extremely wealthy or anything like that, but obviously happy growing up. And my dad, working for the Parks Department, he cut down trees and then he got promoted, but he always had a side business. So he always, when he came home, he went to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, he came home at 3 o'clock. He then went out to work again, cutting down trees to make sure that everybody in the family had food on the table and Christmas presents at Christmas time. And my mom, too, ironically, she was a stay-at-home mom, but she did have certain jobs at certain points. Like, she always was what I call an American picker before it was really popular. So she was a collector. So she would go to garage sales, thrift shops. One of the properties that they had a little store, and she would always, it wasn't like she went there every Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, but it was like a hobby of hers, and she always made money doing it. Like, she would find the most amazing little treasures. Like, she'd find a Tiffany lampshade for $5, and then she'd be able to sell it for $5,000, just really cool things. And she has an eye like that. So I definitely feel like my work ethic came from my parents. You see them working very hard to provide. And again, it wasn't easy. I mean, I think back now, I was just at Disney a few weeks ago, and it's expensive for a family, and a family of 4 that many years ago to be able to provide, for a family of 4 to go to Disney. And we never really thought about that, obviously, growing up, or that we were, didn't have things that we needed. But I look back now and I think, geez, it's pretty incredible that they were able to provide that well during that period. So, yeah.
That's great. So let's get into marketing and PR.
Yeah, so I have a marketing and PR company. I generate press for clients. I do marketing strategy. I help businesses grow. I'm also very passionate about connecting people. And one of my side hustles is co-organizer of TEDx Boca Raton, because again, that's a passion of mine, basically getting people's stories out. So I love hearing people's stories. I love sharing people's stories. I like getting them in front of the news media and sort of giving them a microphone. Now today it's very different because we're here. I mean, you can make your own story. People can create their own story every single day on LinkedIn, which is a really cool thing, or on Facebook, or whatever social media channel they decide. And the PR field has changed and morphed a lot, but it's still, I mean, to get an article in Forbes, which I've gotten for clients, Wall Street Journal, obviously a lot of local media coverage, Inc. magazine. So there's lots of things like that I think are still very valuable.
How did you get started?
Okay, so I always had a passion to have like sort of that creative background. And then I guess when I left The Limited, I started working for an agency. And it's interesting because I was working in retail for a few years and did well, and then transferred to Florida. And but I decided that I didn't want to, which is ironic because I still work 7 days a week, but I didn't, at that time I was in my mid-20s, and I said, I work 7 days a week, holidays, nights and holidays, weekends. So I, at the store, and obviously during Christmas and Thanksgiving, and, certain days they're closed, but obviously leading up to big holidays, you're very, very busy during mall hours. So I had an opportunity to work with a small ad agency in Boca Raton, and they had a lot of tech clients. It was actually during the .com boom. So that was an incredible experience and very foundational for me because I got to work with a lot of, IBM is actually, their headquarters is in Boca Raton. So we had a lot of IBM spinoffs, speech recognition, voice over IP, which 20 years ago was very cutting edge. Now it's obviously common. But yeah, that's sort of how I got into. I started with this small agency, and then we had about 4 people when I started. We grew to about 25 people, and we had some incredible, really fun clients. We worked with American Express, Motorola. I worked with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and obviously a lot of small businesses too. So it was a very cool experience, and we did media tours in Manhattan, Silicon Valley, because again, tech space was really hot back then. And now it's hot again, so I have a lot of tech clients now too.
So if someone that's thinking about getting started as an entrepreneur, what advice do you have for them?
Well, interestingly, I would say that, and I think people know this, that it's really 7 days a week. I know my kids say to me, "Oh, Mom's the only person at Disney with a laptop in her purse." So there's things that, sometimes you have to be connected, but even though you're working a lot of hours, there's still lots of wonderful flexibility with it. So I would say, it's something that, it's give and take. You're maybe not in an office from 9 to 5 like a regular job, but you have flexibility, but you're also giving a lot too. Because I definitely work on weekends now. I mean, lots of times I have to pivot because with getting media coverage for clients, I can pitch a client to the media for weeks, and then all of a sudden I get a phone call that they want the client on the news the next day, and then all of a sudden we have to pivot our whole schedule and make sure that happens. So, yeah, so it's interesting, but fun. I love it.
What about, besides the laptop at Disney, what's another tough experience that you could share?
Well, one personal experience, it's really not business oriented, but when my daughter was born, and she's 14 now, so when she was 2 months old, I found out that I had melanoma, and she was only 2 months. I remember bringing her in the car seat into the dermatologist and saying, I have this strange mole on my leg, and I hadn't noticed it before, and all of a sudden it grew. And then I got a call a couple weeks later that it was melanoma, and then I had to have surgery immediately. And of course, all of a sudden, these thoughts of mortality go through your mind with having a baby. And so that was a very, honestly, it made me so grateful, and still every day I'm grateful. It was very pivotal in my career and my life, because no matter what, or no matter how hard things are, and things get hard for everyone. I mean, people have bad days and good days, and bills to pay, and things to do, but I never take things for granted. I really feel like I'm incredibly blessed, and I would say that's a great message. And having, being part of the TEDx, I got exposed to so many incredible people that have overcome obstacles. We had a woman last year who was came out of prison after many years, and now she actually coaches other people she goes into prisons and talks to them about, basically overcoming things and staying out of prison. And we had one of the fathers from Parkland who lost his daughter in the Parkland shooting, Fred Guttenberg. And when I hear his story, and his daughter was 14 and my daughter's 14, I have a son too who's 10, but it really hits home, and it makes you realize how precious life is and how you want to really appreciate every moment that we have.
So what's some of the goals that you are most proud of that you've accomplished?
Well, I think being a mom is definitely one of my proudest things. I don't always feel like the best mom. I think a lot of moms that are working moms, and even moms that are, not necessarily corporate moms, are always juggling and trying to do their best. So, but I do feel like incredibly proud of being a mom and of my children. I think there's lots of different awards and things of that nature through working with different clients that have been very, very exciting. A couple campaigns that we worked on that got recognized through Addy Awards years ago, and those are credentials that I think are really exciting to have and also carry through. I mean, also getting certain clients and telling their story on, Forbes. Years ago, I collaborated with a doctors group, and we got a group of doctors on Dr. Oz. So things like that, I love being able to, and this is one of the reasons I'm passionate about the TEDx and Boca also, is because I feel like sharing people's stories and getting the word out and inspiring others is so powerful, because people learn from other people's experiences, and I feel like it's something that, everybody takes something away. Like you said, Chris, before we started, no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are in your life, you can benefit someone else.
So what goals do you have from today forward? Some things you're looking forward to?
Okay, so I actually am really excited. I'm working on hopefully getting a license for TED Women. So I'm planning to go to the TED Women Conference in December, and I want to host a women's conference, and I'm also working on a women's networking initiative called the Sisterhood for Success. So I've met some incredible women through TEDx, but also just through my life, like best-selling authors, women that have lost their husbands, overcome obstacles, gone through cancer. I mean, everybody has an incredible story, and I feel like, obviously, not just women, but I feel like there's a niche there and a value. So I'm working on this. It's a passion project of mine, the Sisterhood for Success. We're going to be putting a conference together next year for women. So that's what I'm really, really excited about.
No, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So what, the people that want to get involved in marketing and PR, some people look up to you for what you're doing. What advice do you have for them to get started?
I would say to definitely go online. There's so many online courses available now. And the other cool thing about, I mean, it's good and bad, but you really have to stay on top of your game, go to conferences. Like I go to conferences a lot. I go to educational seminars. I listen to webinars. With social media marketing press, things are changing every single day. So I would recommend, there's courses on LinkedIn that are free that you can participate in. You can Google, you can get certified in different things from a PR. There's different organizations like the Public Relations Society of America is a great organization. They have an event coming up. Things like that. Surround yourself with people that are actually doing it and are successful at it.
Well, we want to thank you, obviously, for the help you've done with helping us promote the FITTEAM Palm Beaches Marathon.
I'm a huge fan of FITTEAM.
Thank you. Thank you. So we definitely want to thank you for that. Anything else you want to mention? Any last words? And besides the marathon, other things you've done for us, we're very grateful.
Oh,
Thank you for
yeah.
that.
Well, I have to say, I get inspired working with inspirational people. And obviously, Chris, your story is incredible. I don't know. You should actually have someone interview you on the show because I know your story. Because when I work with clients, I sit for a couple hours and I basically interview them about what we just did and learn about your backgrounds and you have a military background, and there's things that people, your journey was not easy. You've gotten to an incredible place, and I think that you have so much value to share. And so I feel like it's been an honor to work with FITTEAM, and I get so excited working with different clients and sharing their stories. And you were featured in Inc. magazine. I don't know if everybody knows that, but that was, I think, an incredible accomplishment, to share your story in Inc., how you grew so quickly, but it didn't happen that quickly. We all know
Right.
Success is not overnight. People think it might be, but you worked many, many years to make this happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So any last words besides me? Me too, I appreciate that.
Well, I would just tell everyone to stay tuned for the Sisterhood for Success. Keep your eyes out. We've got an incredible network of women. I know Joy from LinkedIn, Joy McAdams. We're going to be promoting her book through the Sisterhood, Confidence Creator, and a bunch of other incredibly inspiring women. Fabi Powell, she lost her husband a couple years ago to cancer, and now she started a foundation to support people with cancer, sarcoma. So I think just stay tuned. It's called the sisterhoodforsuccess.com. You can check it out, and there'll be some events coming up, and we'd love to invite people to join.
Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Chris.